bruised, and the vulnerable. When they speak, help me help us hear them. When they tell the truth, remind me of your deeds of power, that I can hear their voices and not be dismissive. Touch my heart, touch our heart, that I hear the good news and can move from my current attachments today to the world that you indeed intended for me and for us, even if it costs something. I pray for the strength to move forward, practicing the principle, justice is what love looks like in the public, which our Savior Jesus Christ demonstrated with his life. Help me live this out by joining together in our church, advocating for just government policies and programs that make a difference for the most bruised and vulnerable here and across the world. You said of things that were inadequate on their own as you walk this broken world. So for all of us, but specifically as the leaders of your church and leaders of this country at your feet. Father, we need your wisdom, and Father, we need your help. Where thoughts are not your thoughts, align them with your own. Where ways are not your ways, guide them to be yours. Where other kingdoms are in the way, let your kingdom come. To this city, to this state, to this country, let justice roll like down waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. We don't know what to do, but our eyes are on you. In the name of Jesus, and we all said, amen. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. And now for the adoption of the agenda. This is a time when the council may adopt the agenda as written or make certain alterations of it. Is there a motion?
Yes. I'm moving to add the arts presentation group to the agenda for tonight. So I guess I'll need a second.
Is there a second to that motion? Second by Lance Lehman. We can address that in a second. So the motion on the table is to add the arts groups to the agenda. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and we'll add them as item 4A. And then also, I have a request of the council to move item 40, which is also a presentation, up under the presentation headline, which we're about ready to start. Okay, we have a motion from Armstrong to that effect. Second by Richie Nordstrom. Okay, thank you. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So we're going to move item 40 up into presentations. Oh, serious? I'm the last one to know. So that's the presentation from Pennington County Health and Human Services. Yeah, I have an old copy. Okay, so have you removed item 2? Or no? Sorry, folks. Okay. All right, it's already moved, and it is item 4. Okay, so never mind that motion. We don't need to vote on that one. Are there any other motions for adopting the agenda tonight?
Mayor, I'd like to move item number 2 to the next council meeting. Make a motion to move item 2 to the next council meeting.
Okay, we have a second by Laura Armstrong, and the reason is the presenter for item 2 is not available to be here tonight. So can we have a motion and a second? All in favor of moving item 2 to the next council meeting, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, getting this cleaned up. Any other motions? Or a motion to adopt as amended? Motion to adopt as amended by Bill Evans, or second by Richie Nordstrom. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, so first up, we have a proclamation for Earth Day, and I'd like to invite the members of the Rapid City Sustainability Committee to come forward. Oh, good.
We're like crowd. There's another Earth Day event going on tonight.
Oh, there is?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so I'll read the proclamation. You guys give a 20-minute speech or so, and then we'll...
We're set. Everyone knows about that.
Good. So as you may know, Earth Day is coming up, and I have an executive proclamation to read, and then I'll turn it over for any comments to the Sustainability Committee. Whereas the first Earth Day was enacted in 1970 and engaged over 20 million Americans to advocate for a cleaner environment. And whereas Earth Day has now become a worldwide event celebrated annually on April 22nd and continues to highlight some of the most critical environmental issues facing humankind, both locally and globally. And whereas the annual celebration of Earth Day in Rapid City is an opportunity to demonstrate support for environmental protection and to take action to ensure both present and future generations have access to clean air, land, and water. And whereas this year's Earth Day celebration is being organized by the Rapid City Standing Committee on Sustainability and Dakota Rural Action, Black Hills Chapter, and held in conjunction with Rapid City's 50th annual citywide cleanup week, in which community members come together to collectively clean and beautify our community. And whereas several activities and events to learn about environmental issues and encourage protection of our community's natural resources have been planned for the public to participate in throughout the week of April 17th through the 25th, 2021, such as a native wildflower seed giveaway, Earth Day themed trivia, a trail challenge, virtual movie showings and panel discussions, public area and park cleanups, kids activities, and several educational sessions, including keynote speaker Dr. L. Hunter Lovins, author, sustainability advocate, and co-founder of Rocky Mountain Institute. Now, therefore, I, Steve Allender, Mayor of Rapid City, do hereby proclaim April 22nd, 2021 as Earth Day in Rapid City, South Dakota, and encourage all residents to protect the environment in order to sustain a healthy planet and community on this day and every day.
Thank you, Mayor Allender. I hadn't prepared any remarks as I didn't know we'd be given a chance to speak, but I will take this opportunity to invite everyone to participate in this week's Earth Day activities. It's actually a whole week long of events. We started last Saturday at the farmers market. We'll be going through this weekend. There's a lot of opportunities for you to get involved with different speakers and things. You can also participate in the city's cleanup week, so if you haven't gotten involved with that yet, I encourage you to. The full schedule of events is available online at www.rapidcitysustainability.com, spelled out like that. It's also been on the city's Facebook page and the Rapid City Sustainability Facebook page. I encourage you to get involved. One of the things we'll be kicking off this Thursday is a trail challenge, which we're really excited about, giving people a chance to get out and check out our beautiful area and hopefully pick up some trash along the way. And yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. But thanks, everyone, for your time, and happy Earth Day.
All right, thank you. Okay, starting on the agenda with the new agenda, I see we have the 211 presentation as item 1. So we're going to remove, we've already removed, or did we? Which one did we remove? Oh, sorry. Goodness. Boy. Don't record this meeting. It's not going well so far. Okay. Everything I just said is false, so we'll start with item number 1, presentation on 211 by Director Audrey Nordine.
Thank you for the invitation to be here. Hopefully this works swimmingly here. Thank you especially to Darla and Laura for the special invite to learn more about 211. Let's see. Is this mouse working?
The Helpline Center is a nonprofit organization, so I am the CEO and run the day-to-day operations, but we ultimately have a board of directors that provides guidance and oversight over the whole operation.
The core of what we do is connecting people to resources in their community. We'll be going statewide here about July 1st, so we're onboarding the rest of the counties in the state of South Dakota. When people call in, they could be asking anything as simple as, hey, I need the number for the auditor's office in my county. Or they could be asking for resources or help, making ends meet in the interim of a tough time.
We're a family here of individuals supporting each other, connecting people not only in Sioux Falls but all over South Dakota to get through the tough times in life. At the end of most of these calls, people are relieved. They're saying thank you to the people who are creating these groups to help. Thank you to us for answering the phone. They're just relieved that they don't have to face this alone.
I think the important thing for people to know about the Helpline Center is that there are real people behind our phone lines, and those people are caring and concerned and compassionate and empathetic, and we're here to help you and listen to you and help you get through this very, very difficult time.
There's a lot of fear and anxiety across our community and our state right now. It's hard to live in a pandemic when there's so many unknowns.
Oftentimes people have been impacted by the COVID virus by losing their jobs, so we've helped them find food, we've helped them find rental assistance, and other basic necessities.
When I talk to a caller, my biggest concern is, are you taken care of? Do you have the resources you need? And are you okay mentally?
So we kind of go step by step, look at, hey, they need help with rent. We have a program for that. They need help with food. We help them get signed up for food distribution. We're just really that shoulder for them to lean on during these times when there are so many unknowns.
We're all going through it together. Everyone's affected by it in some way, one or another. There are people that are willing to help and listen, and that's part of what we do as well.
So I think my colleagues explained it really well. 211, the only piece of information that's not true in that video is we went statewide in July of 2020. So we've been statewide for, we're coming up on a year now. So our overall organization is Helpline Center. What you just learned about is 211. We also do suicide prevention and crisis support. So we're the entity that answers the National Suicide Prevention Line in South Dakota. And then we also have a program, Volunteer Connections, that serves in the Black Hills, Brookings, and the Sioux Falls area. So 211 has been the number for Helpline Center since 2001, but it is a national number. So there's a lot of states that have 211. They just each use it in a different capacity. So what's 211 in South Dakota? We're often considered the front door. What we do is essentially a screening every time an individual calls us, making sure we're meeting their multiple needs, because we know when someone calls for food, that's not the only need that they have. It provides a place for professionals. Many in this room, I know, looking around, have referred people to 211, and just really maximizing your job, your day-to-day job, whether you work in government, social services, school district, and we're trained crisis specialists as well. Luckily, because of the pandemic, we have now over 5,000 programs in our centralized database. Prior to 2020, it was around the 2,500 mark, and that was serving South Dakota. Another reason for this is that we went statewide, so we onboarded all 9 reservation areas, and those more rural areas that perhaps didn't have the funding to have 211 in their county. So it's a way to direct people to the correct nonprofit and government resources. In the Black Hills, we work with government social service and nonprofit agencies weekly, daily, to make sure, especially during COVID, that we have the accurate information because perhaps they got new funding. So we want to make sure people that call 211 are going to be able to tap into that funding. It also eliminates confusion. Our biggest goal is, sorry, I'm getting funny with my fingers there. The biggest goal is to help people find their missing puzzle piece to where they need to go, and that they're getting to the right door the first time instead of having to run around. Another piece of what we do is disaster recovery. So I won't have anyone raise their hands, but if you signed up for the GP Fire 85511 during the Schroeder fire, that was Helpline Center that was sending those texts out in partnership with the local authorities that were making those calls. We also are open every day of the year, 24/7. We're accredited by the American Information Referral Systems, and we're the only entity in South Dakota accredited by the American Association of Suicidology. First, just because of time, I want to show you just a glimpse of what our, if I can get the cursor to work. Maybe. Here we go. Maybe. So this piece here is showing you how to get to our database. This, you don't have to call 211 to tap into the resources. So this first thing, these are all of the ways we taxonomize terms. And what it's going to show you here is rent payment assistance. These are all the options that come up for rent payment assistance in Pennington County. And we're going to click on the South Dakota Cares Housing. This is what any resource looks like, whether it's on our end or on your end as the user. It'll show you how to access it, eligibility, what the application process is. So you're really set up to go before you're utilizing that resource, knowing you have all the information you need. That big list down there is all of the other programs that are associated with that one. So if you're into looking for COVID-related support, other resources are going to show up there. Another piece we have is our resource guides. We create 6 different resource guides for the Black Hills area. So anything that's in our database can be found on one of these resource guides. But if you don't find what you need, we have a tool that you can actually create your own resource guide called Helpless. Maybe there are things that don't necessarily fit together, like the auditor's number, and you also need food pantries in Pennington County. And now the council members have this in front of them, but our Black Hills snapshot has all of our data from 2020. In the Black Hills, we had over almost 19,000 people that contacted us. Through that, we know, like I said, when people call 211 or they utilize 211, they're often not only having one need. So per our accreditation, we give out at least 3 referrals based off of what those people's needs are. In our contacts, out of those contacts, we identified 37,973 needs. The top 3 needs in 2020 being food, mental health and addictions, and income support and assistance. So this, that kind of showed you, this is a dashboard that's available to anyone. It'll give you real-time data of the calls that we're seeing. You can change it by your geography. Maybe you're interested in suicide-related calls. There's a tab for that. So this is something that we were grateful to bring in 2020, so you could really see what people are calling for and what needs are true in the Black Hills area, and for that matter, any other county in South Dakota. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Next up on the agenda, Main Street Square. Item 3 on the agenda, D'Amico Rodriguez.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me today. And what I'm going to talk about, and I'm not exactly sure how this works. either. Ah, bless it. So what I'm here to talk about is an idea that we came up with at Destination Rapid City called giving meters. And this is not an idea that is new to Rapid City. As a matter of fact, I named this 2.0 because we have had giving meters in downtown Rapid City before. However, we're going to relaunch the program with a little bit different spin on it. So what's different this time around is, Rapid City was actually ahead of the game when they came out with this idea previously. However, I think it was a little bit too new, and the technology wasn't there. Where other communities, for instance, this picture up here, are some giving meters that Phoenix launched in 2020. And what a giving meter is it looks exactly like a normal parking meter. However, we're encouraging people to make donations into these meters to help fight to help organizations that help the homeless or less fortunate in Rapid City. So the idea is DRC was donated 10 giving meters that would be placed throughout downtown. This is just an example of what Phoenix did, and they had their local arts organization paint these meters so that they stood out. We have secured 10 of these that can be placed throughout downtown. Right now, they're being processed by the same company that Rapid City purchased their giving meters from, or their parking meters from. And these are going to be painted a standard color green. And green, for those that don't know, is the color of homeless awareness. So we're getting them painted green, but we have the option to paint them whatever we would like. The idea is that the Destination Rapid City Board will create a subcommittee that will select organizations that support the less fortunate and give the annual proceeds. So the whole premise is to educate people to give to the meters rather than give to the panhandlers themselves. Because those of us that are in Rapid City know that oftentimes those funds that are given to the panhandler don't go to actually what they need. This would go to the organizations that help the less fortunate. Any of those can be Love Inc., Hope Center, Mission, any of the nonprofits. And the Destination Rapid City Board would select those and then give the funds that are accumulated by these meters at the end of the year. Main Street Square and Destination Rapid City will manage the program. We're not asking the city to do any of the managing of it. Also, the use of this updated technology. Our old meters only took coins, where this new technology will allow, if somebody wants to give via credit card, they could do that. If somebody wanted to give change, they could do that. And then also, the idea is to have a sign on these meters that have a QR code on them. And QR codes are an old technology that have now, through the pandemic, become a little more usable because, for instance, restaurants use them so that they don't have to print menus and people touch menus. The QR codes would then be on a sign and people can see what organizations they'd be giving to. The big key to the QR code is that it is trackable. So we know which organizations get the most funds or have received the larger donations and things like that. So and the big piece and the reason why we want to do this now is because I say this all the time, as Rapid City's South Dakota's light has never been brighter. Through good, bad, or indifferent, our governor has done a good job of promoting the state. Visit Rapid City has done a good job promoting the area. And the idea is to deploy these before the summer months and try to educate the community as well as the visitors to give to a better organization, or there is a better way to give, And this is just a mock-up of one of the signs that we came up with. And the messaging is very, I wouldn't call it aggressive by any means, but it says, help us help Rapid City. It's okay to say no to panhandling. And then there's a better way to give. Then there's the QR code that you would scan, and then it'd come up with the list of organizations that you would be giving to. But the whole point is that through social media, business participation from the downtown businesses, PSAs, is to get the word out about this. And I think there was a press conference earlier, I think last July, and I think what was missed was that simple message of there's a better way to give. And here, Destination Rapid City is trying to do what we can to inform the locals as well as the visitors that there's other options rather than giving a panhandler cash. That money can go to an organization that is better suited to help them. What our ask is from the city is our request is to place these 10 meters in the city right away. Now, there is one pole that is still in place. It's right by the medicine wheel at Main Street Square on the corner of 6th and Main Street. That would be one of the high traffic locations that we would be looking. But the issue is that these are in the right of way. So we would be placing these throughout downtown and throughout high traffic areas, and we're asking for the city to allow us to do that. Also, the request, again, to put them in high need areas with the city's approval, and also to request funding to install the poles and the meters. And there is a handout, and I think that funding, the total was about $1,000 for the 10 poles and the install for those. But what we do know is that Rapid City has resources for less fortunate. One of the things that we've been working with as Destination Rapid City is informing the downtown businesses and the downtown patrons that there are feeds throughout the park system. There are resources that are available to those less fortunate, and the cash may be better suited in a different way because it doesn't go to the resources a lot of times. And we all know that. That's why the messaging is there is a better way to give. And our ambassadors, the Destination Rapid City ambassadors and downtown ambassadors, can help get the word out with them being on the streets and kind of helping to direct and redirect some of the panhandlers. That would be a good opportunity for us to, again, touch the community and touch the visitors that will be here this summer. Our goal is to deploy these by June 1st. We're working with the meter company to get them to us as soon as possible. They just need to be manufactured and personalized to suit Rapid City's needs, and we will have them and be able to put them on the streets. And then also that same signage, and I want to just take a moment to address the signage. Everyone has an idea of what that signage should be. It should be more harsh. It should be less harsh. It should be more direct. That sign is not the gospel yet. We're still working on what that messaging is, but the whole point is to direct people to find a different way to give. That same signage could be displayed, and we have gotten confirmation from some downtown businesses that could be displayed in their windows, because this is on behalf of the downtown businesses and the businesses in the surrounding downtown areas. We all know it's an issue. This is not going to fix the issue, but it's going to educate, and that's one of the biggest things that we need to do. So with that, I can stand for any questions, but if there aren't any, I would say thank you.
Well, thank you, D'Amico. I would suggest that you and your group identify the locations where you'd like to see these poles installed and forward those to me here at the office. And then I'll get back in touch with the council to get approval on those specific locations at the next meeting. And then we'll be good.
Okay?
I think we weren't anticipating any action here tonight.
Nope.
So, yeah, we'll work with you to get that proposed and get the council to consider it.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda, Pennington County Health and Human Services, the Executive Director, Barry Tice.
Good evening. I'm Barry Tice, the Director of Pennington County Health and Human Services, and I've been with the department for 16 years, 6 of which I was appointed as the Director. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to provide a brief overview of the work done through Pennington County Health and Human Services. Health and Human Services is one of 4 primary partners within the CARE campus, which includes the Rapid City Police Department Quality of Life Unit, Behavior Management Systems, and the Pennington County Sheriff's Office. The CARE campus provides numerous services including behavioral health, detoxification, safe solutions, outpatient treatment, residential treatment, case management services, and Pennington County Health and Human Services. I typically describe Health and Human Services as the fulcrum of services in our community. Health and Human Services provides economic assistance, burial assistance, rent, utilities, mortgages, gas assistance for employment, and medical transportation, as well as outstanding medical bills. We have a Veteran Service Office, which houses 2 Veteran Service Officers serving the veterans in Pennington County and the City of Rapid City, with items such as compensation, pension, and educational benefits. I always emphasize our robust diversion programming, where we utilize intensive case management services for programs such as the Rebound Reentry Program, which was the first reentry program in the state of South Dakota, started in 2006. The Owens Apartment Complex, Crisis Care Case Management Services, as well as Safe Solutions Case Management Services. For over 30 years, economic assistance has been one of Health and Human Services' primary programs provided to our community. During a normal year, we see between 500 and 1,000 applications for rent, utilities, and mortgage assistance. In March of 2020, we anticipated demand for economic assistance and started formulating an immediate response to the pandemic and the economic impact that occurred. Many organizations in our community have demonstrated a history of collaborative efforts to achieve common goals, including the Community Development Block Grants program that we have received over the years, and our collaborative efforts with Michelle Schulke, who's sitting in the room. We always appreciate her tremendous assistance as she has provided to Health and Human Services. Over the past year, our partnerships were more important than ever before and was evident during this unprecedented time. Beginning in March of 2020, collaborative conversations started with our primary partners in economic assistance, which include Catholic Social Services, the Salvation Army, 211, Volunteers of America, and the Western South Dakota Community Action Program. We developed a streamlined process for community members utilizing 211, where callers were referred to Health and Human Services for housing, utility assistance, and mortgage assistance. It was always our goal to simplify the access to resources for our community members, and it was successful. During this time, we also developed a database to our sister partner agencies in determining what funding was available for the services that were being requested, as well as tracking applicant information to ensure we were maximizing the limited resources that were available at that time. We are grateful to local foundations, including the John T. Vakurovich Foundation, Black Hills Area Community Foundation, Elevate Rapid City Disaster Relief, as well as Pennington County Assistance, providing funding between April and October of 2020 until the CARES Act dollars were released from the state of South Dakota. In October of 2020, Pennington County Health and Human Services, as well as other agencies from across the state, offered to help process applications and distribute CARES Act funds provided by the South Dakota Housing and Development Authority. As much as I enjoy discussing the work that was done and continues to be done at Health and Human Services, the staff at Health and Human Services deserve the accolades. They pivoted from their normal roles in the office, assisting with economic applications, working long hours to ensure these applications were processed in a short period of time. 665 applications in 60 days alone through the CARES Act. We are thankful for the support to assist over 2,200 applicants through Health and Human Services with rent deposit assistance, utilities, and mortgage assistance, and provided just over $1.7 million in assistance. This included assistance to applicants that had never utilized economic services until this time, meeting a need we never anticipated. We saw a 35% increase in applications for assistance from previous years and a 72% increase in the funds that were dispersed. This assistance not only benefited the applicant, but the property owners and landlords, which benefits our local economy. This assistance also reduced the potential for an increase in evictions and foreclosures as they related to past due rent and mortgages. In February of this year, South Dakota Housing and Development Authority received additional funding for rent, utility assistance, and mortgage assistance through the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. Pennington County Health and Human Services, as well as other agencies across the state, offered once again to process applications for this assistance. and will continue to do so as long as the funding remains for those individuals and families impacted financially and medically by the COVID-19 pandemic. Lastly, I wanted to provide a scenario we often heard which exemplifies the importance of this assistance during an unprecedented time. A family of 5, 2 adults and 3 children applied for rental assistance. Both adults and 1 child tested positive for the COVID-19 virus. After losing wages due to time away from work to recover, they found themselves needing assistance with rent. They were not eligible for many resources in our community. We were able to assist through Elevate Rapid City disaster relief funds so they would avoid falling further behind in rent. I appreciate your time. I can stand for any questions.
Thank you, Barry. Okay, next on the agenda, item 4A, and this is a series of presentations from various arts groups and museum.
I'll do a little introduction if that's okay, Mr. Mayor.
Please do.
Yeah, 8 months ago or so, my arm twisted by Laura to join several arts organization boards, and I'm going to tell you it's been a great joy to get to know these people and to watch them in action, especially during this particular period where they've had to be extraordinarily creative and resourceful, just keep their heads above water and everything. And I thought it was important that they shared some of their strategies that they've been using to survive and actually flourish during this time. So I have 3 people here tonight: Troy Kilpatrick from the Museum Alliance and Journey, Nick Johnson from the Performing Arts Center of Rapid City, Mark Rambo from the Doll and the Rapid City Arts Council. So whoever wants to go first, feel free to step up to the microphone. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Nick Johnson from the Performing Arts Center of Rapid City, and thank you, Bill, for inviting us here. So as you can imagine, it's been a quite challenging year for the arts, and especially performing arts, which is really about live events, and that's what we really learned. We've tried to do our pivots to virtual and online, but what we've realized is that we're live arts organizations, and we're looking forward to hitting the ground running again. Our season this past year, roughly our seasons run like an academic year. So our 2021 season would have been our 9th. We were doing so well right up through March of 2020. We were seeing numbers in attendance and performers on stage and kids taking classes and adults taking workshops. We topped out at about 44,000 people served through 2019. And that fell down in 2020 to about 11,000. That includes about a quarter of the year, but we kept going. We provided a great facility with some really professional help, and our professional technicians really learned a lot about Facebook Live and YouTube streaming, and a lot about that. And so what the Performing Arts Center provides is the facility for arts organizations. So you'll see Kirsten here from the Black Hills Symphony Orchestra, who live streamed at least 3 concerts. The Black Hills Community Theater, which I also managed, did many virtual play readings and classes for kids. The participation was nothing like what we had seen in the past, but it was something that we felt we needed to do to keep alive, to keep ourselves in front of the public. And I think the people who participated in that appreciated that diversion and having a local diversion. Of course, funding has been one of the biggest difficulties. The Performing Arts Center runs a little lean because, like I said, we're support staff and a facility. So of a budget of $300,000 in a normal year, we cut that down to about $160,000 this past year. We learned a lot about acronyms and funding, EIDL loans and PPP loans and the CARES Act, and we went after every single grant we could. We had great support from the State Arts Council, from the small business grants through the CARES Act, and I guess I would say that we're here and we have cash flow, and we're ready to hit the ground running. We're very pleased to have our first public performance outside of a school. We're housed in Rapid City High School, so of course we've had the school district actually told the middle school music teachers, if you want to do something live, do it over at the Performing Arts Center. So we've hosted a dozen concerts by various ensembles, but our first live performance was by the Black Hills Symphony Orchestra about a week ago. a very modest audience, socially distanced, masked up, but we felt very good about that foray into the performing arts, and we feel good about continuing on and rebuilding what we had. We appreciate the city's support. I said between some of these grant awards we received, there were a few months where that city check was the only funding we saw all month, and it's greatly appreciated, and your dedication to the arts is appreciated by everyone involved. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for having us here tonight. I'm Mark Rambo. I'm the Executive Director of the Rapid City Arts Council, and we also operate the Doll Arts Center with our art galleries. First, I want to say thank you. You know, like Nick had just mentioned, the city funding that we've received has been essential in keeping us afloat over the past year. Both the funding as well as the I guess personal attention that we've received from all of the various people here, several of the council members, the mayor's office, the city attorney's office, finance office, everybody has been fantastic over the past year. Able to answer a lot of questions, able to help where they're needed, able to give us very frank assessments at times of, you know, what we need to do and where we need to be. So I want to thank everybody for that. I came on board just almost exactly a year ago, and we were shut down. We had the galleries all locked down, and all of our employees were either furloughed or on very limited hours working from home. So we hurriedly got a PPP grant loan at that time, and we're able to target June 1st for our reopening date. We've since, under CDC guidelines, everything we've done, have had the galleries reopened, numerous different art shows, some wonderful art shows going on. We've been able to have our youth camps during the summer. Again, very limited numbers, very limited participation, but they've been occurring. We've had some amazing videos that have been made by some of our staff that are shared through our YouTube channel as well as on our website. I'd encourage you all to go on and look at them. We've really looked at the last year as not just struggles, but the opportunities that it's allowed us to do. Not a lot of organizations have the chance to kind of shut down and restart. And we've really taken it as an opportunity to look at the different programs that we do, the different relationships we have around the community, the relationship with the city, the relationship with the school district, relationship with the police, everything that we've done in the past that we continue to do, but we might have to do in a little bit different way. We've been able to recently reopen for our first live performance as well. We had a contemporary jazz concert the other night to a sold-out crowd, again limited in size, but a very enthusiastic crowd. So we're really happy to be getting to the point where we can start seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. Our revenues are down. We're down in 2020 by 59% over our goal, our original goal, and that's with PPP funds and CARES Act. So, you know, it has been a struggle, but again, we've set the challenge to ourselves of doing everything we've done in the past, just doing it in a different way. And I think we're very proudly able to say we've done that. So, and I owe that to a lot of people here, but also to an amazing staff and very active board of directors who have helped us out. So in addition, we did have funds that recently were distributed in the community from the arts contingency funds that the city makes available, and we've gotten those distributed to 17 organizations in the community. So that's 17 other organizations that you've all been able to support through that activity. And again, on behalf of all of them, I want to thank you as well. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing us to come and talk for a few minutes here tonight.
Bill asked us to just put together a few highlights of the last 13, 14 months here, and so I've got a whole sheet to keep it short, Bill. But first I just want to make sure that all of you here from the Journey Museum and Learning Center, the Museum Alliance of Rapid City, our partners, our collaborators, our friends, our members, our supporters, a sincere thank you to the City of Rapid City for your support. As you heard Mark and Nick say, sometimes the one constant thing that we had to count on was knowing that we had at least maybe our utilities recovered, you know, and that was the only thing I had going for us at different times. It was quite a year, quite a ride for us when we closed. I'm ashamed to say when we closed, we'd never made a video before, ever, of any educational programs. When we closed, we started doing them weekly. Since then, we've created 64 education videos and 40 programs that are over 30 minutes in length that we have on journeymuseum.org, on our Facebook, on YouTube. We've generated over 30,000 viewers to those programs. In that time, we used to be really quite proud of ourselves for having 65 people show up. That's about 450 people per program have watched those videos now in an outreach fashion. And so now we know, as we continue to try to come open, we got to be a video and educational production place to really sustain everything for ourselves. We were closed for over 100 days. It was really problematic to understand how to reopen a museum with social distance and audiences of 10. I want to send a little appreciation to City Finance and to you guys for allowing us to reorganize our draw, because we took additional money in June to basically split the difference between us buying video equipment, mixers and cameras, and then getting the type of supplies necessary to clean the museum on an ongoing basis. There's 47,000 square feet that needed to be wiped down all the time. We basically were dedicating one staff member to wiping down bathrooms and everything else. So we go through cleaning materials like nobody's business. But we knew we had to get open. We had the governor and the president coming out here to Mount Rushmore, and we had to get the museum open to help host people to our community. At the end, when you compare 2019 to 2020, we were open 357 days in 2019, and we were open 159 in 2020. That was as many as we could squeeze out of being closed 100 plus days, and then with the partial staffing there. Our budget, what I was hoping for, was somewhere over $800,000 in incomes. We lost over $300,000, $200,000 in admissions, $100,000 in gift shop income. So it was quite a ride. We counterbalanced that to a degree by reducing our fixed expenses by over $200,000, of which a lot was unfortunately in staffing and salaries. But, you know, we angled for just trying to somehow keep moving through the year. We did offset some other things. We, as I believe Nick and Mark indicated, I mean, we applied for and got the PPP twice, an SBA disaster loan, a South Dakota CARES Act award, a South Dakota Arts Council residency for recovery, underwriting for public programs. We were awarded sub-awards from the South Dakota Space Consortium for interns and program support. We got a grant from the South Dakota Humanities Council. We were also finally got approved for South Dakota emergency funds in January, and somehow here we are today, and we're grateful for all of that. We've been open basically weekends here in early 2021 with STEAM education programs that have proven to be quite successful. That was really due to our members asking, when's Toddler Tuesday coming back? When can we come back and do these things? So we did all of our education programs all on Saturday to try to kind of solve all of those problems at once. We've been pulling in about 100 folks every Saturday, 150 Saturdays and Sundays. So we're going to take that model into a 5-day-a-week program here, May 19th. It'll be Wednesday through Sundays. We'll remain closed on Mondays and Tuesdays, and we hope that we've matched the optimism of Visit Rapid City, Black Hills and Badlands, State of South Dakota, and tourism. Hope we can host lots of people in our community, in our museum, and help recover towards where we're going. So here's what our goal is we're not there yet. It's 2021. We need to continue to push forward.
2022 is a significant year for the museum and our community. It'll be 25 years since the journey opened in 1997, and we'll also commemorate 50 years ago the 1972 Rapid City flood, which is an important job for the museum to make sure we do that in the right way. And so again, we want to say thank you to the City of Rapid City for being such a fantastic partner, someone we can count on, and we are proud to serve you and be a part of this community. So thank you.
Thank you, Troy. I think that wraps up our presentations for tonight. We'll move on to general public comment. We have one speaker request for tonight, Gina Parkhurst. All the speakers tonight will have a 3-minute time limit, and there's a timer over here to my left for you to watch, so the floor is yours.
All right. May I remove my mask for speaking?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mayor Allender and members of the Rapid City Common Council. I am Gina Parkhurst. I'm the current regent or leader of the Black Hills chapter of Daughters of the American Revolution. In honor of our chapter's 100th anniversary, a banquet was held Saturday, April 17th at the Rushmore Hotel here in Rapid City, with 48 attendees, many of whom were dressed in 1920s garb. We would like to thank Mayor Allender for sending a proclamation in honor of our 100th anniversary. At our dinner on Saturday, State Regent Robin Fansler of Sioux Falls brought greetings, and 3 local women were posthumously honored as DAR Women in American History. Those 3 women include Deborah Whiteplume, Native American activist and water protector, DAR member Tracy Rushing, recipient of the DAR Ellen Hardin Walworth Medal for Patriotism in 2002, and past DAR State and Chapter Regent Robin Dustman. We had a couple programs. One of them was given by Kelly Kirk, Black Hills State University history instructor. She talked to us about the time after the vote, when women received the right to vote in 1920. And we also had a program by Mary Buholtz of Belle Fourche. Mary Buholtz is a local historian and Belle Fourche chapter member. She gave us a program on the celebration of 100 years of Black Hills DAR chapter. And we finished up the night with the Mitchell chapter regent, Nina Aiken, portraying Nancy Morgan Hart. Nina was dressed in colonial style, and she portrayed Nancy Morgan Hart, who was a heroine who bravely defended her home against the invasion of British soldiers during the Revolutionary War. And she was the ancestor of our first chapter regent, Carolyn Sawyer Baxter. And we had 2 special anniversary projects, which included a chapter cookbook put together by a committee of our chapter members. They are available for $15 donation. And we digitized nearly 10,000 pages of historic chapter records, which were passed on from one regent to the next over the years. And we were able to digitize those records through a grant from the Mary Chilton DAR Foundation of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So again, I'd just like to thank you, Mr. Mayor, for issuing this proclamation, and good night to all.
Thank you, Gina. Okay, and that'll conclude our general public comment, and now we'll move on to non-public hearing items, and those items are 5 through 45. The public comment for these items are 5 through 35, and we have no speaker requests for those items. So therefore, no public hearing. That'll move on to consent items 5 through 35. So would the council like to remove any of these items for separate consideration or approve them in one group? Motion to approve the consent items by Armstrong, a second by Lehman. That'll be for items 5 through 35. All in favor of approval of consent items say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That'll take us to non-consent items 36 through 45, and we'll open public comment on those items. I have some speaker requests here on item 38. So the same reminder to all the speakers here tonight, we have the lights over here. Everyone has a 3-minute time period to discuss your issue, and then pass the podium to someone else. First up on item 38 is Bill Freytag.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council. My item, number 38, is for Prairie Fire Subdivision, and I'm asking for your permission to install HDPE pipe in my subdivision because I have hot soils. And I gave you documentation on Wednesday from NTI, my engineer, my soils engineer, that made it clear I had hot soils, corrosive soils, and that the HDPE pipe was an alternative, a good alternative for that. And I also had a letter that was signed by an EIT at that time, and I told you I would get you the letter, and I sent it to Lance and I sent it to Laura. So it was signed by the senior engineer at NTI. The second letter I had for you was from my design engineer, KTM, and my design engineer recognized the corrosive soils and recommended that I use HDPE pipe. And then finally, I brought you the information from your own engineer that the city hired in 2013, probably one of the widest respected engineering firms in the middle of the United States, and that was Black & Veatch. And in their report to the city, May 31st, 2013, they said, and I gave you the documentation that proved it, that if you have hot soils, HDPE pipe is a superior, that's their word, superior choice. So with that, I would hope that you would honor the science and that you would allow me to put my HDPE pipe in the ground in Prairie Fire Subdivision. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Kyle Trelor.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Kyle Trelor with KTM Design Solutions, representing Bill's project here. So just for the record, I'm not the design engineer on the project. I am the owner of the design company that is working on his project. I have design engineers that design the plans underneath me. And so just a notice of clarification there as it was brought up. Bill did bring a letter in at the working session. I've since had that signed by engineers as kind of just further backup that all of the design engineers within our group would support the use of HDPE pipe in a situation like this. I did just want to kind of bring up maybe some more practical points with the HDPE water main. It's commonly used in our area. So as I was walking out of the office tonight, I kind of just ran through the different projects that we have under construction right now and pulled, I don't know, it was about 7 or 8 different design plans that are under construction from Spearfish, Sturgis, Box Elder, even here in Rapid City, underneath Rapid City streets in the Rapid Valley Sanitary Sewer District, we're installing HDPE pipes. So just kind of as a commonly used material in this area, it is something that we do utilize in a lot of different areas. And in a lot of these other communities and with these other water districts, it is specified and used as a normal material. It does have benefits, and we've got some specialty people here. I'll let them speak to the actual pipe benefits. But it is a common material that we use. It's something that we specify in a lot of different plans that we do and have constructed. It's a material that our local contractors are familiar with. Even with the different crews that we run in the various offices that I'm associated with, the guys know how to do both copper services and HDPE services because it is a common material, and depending on which job you are and where you're at, you'll be doing one or the other. It is an affordable material. We found ways to help with the overall cost of a subdivision by utilizing it, and we've worked with different communities in using it, all well, following the specifications that they're bringing to the table. So depending on where you're at, we will be installing tracer wire or tracer wire boxes, but we've always been able to use it and kind of eliminate some of the issues that you have with this long-term maintenance with coupling and whatnot. It allows for a diversification of materials. So right now, where we're seeing shortages of certain types of materials, having the ability to use a secondary pipe material for these services kind of lets us have some flexibility in not being at quite the tides of the market where we're seeing that we might have a shortage one day to the next. It's helped us continue to develop and move, and that it's commonly used. I see I used my 3 minutes up, but if there are any questions, I am available. So thank you guys, and as always, thank you, and I'll be available for questions.
Okay, thank you. Dane Boomsma.
Dane Boomsma with Professional Excavating. I'm here just in support of the use of HDPE. We have been using it on service lines from the curb stop or property line into the property by way of a permanent exception that staff granted a couple of years ago. Don't quote me on timeline, but it's probably been that long. It's probably been that long since I've been in front of you guys talking about the HDPE product. One of the cons of the product from staff at that time was there's no longevity of the product, which is not true. The product has been around a long time. Just in the last 2 years since I've been in front of you guys talking about the HDPE product, I still have not got a single phone call in regard to the service lines, whether that's in city limits where the HDPE was used or outside of city limits to repair an HDPE failed line. The only phone calls I get, because I am an approved contractor on your guys' utility list that comes from utility maintenance, the only calls I get are copper service lines, and that's throughout the entire year. There's no time of year, there's no rhyme or reason. Copper just fails randomly when put into the hot soils. One thing that's notable is we are actually using the product underneath city streets within the Rapid Valley Sanitation Districts where it's not Rapid City Utilities. That's another argument that staff has. We don't want that product under our streets. It is under your streets in certain areas right now with great success. We are not going back and digging up HDPE because it fails. It's also notable, and I'm hitting some points, so for those of you that remember a couple years ago, Rapid City is the only municipality, county, etc. in our area that does not allow HDPE used all the way from the main line to the house. The tools needed for the HDPE are the exact same tools as needed to install a copper line. The copper that we have to use is a type K soft copper. It's very volatile when handling. It's very difficult to install. To say that the HDPE needs excessive training to install it, it is, if I had to guess, 10 times simpler than the copper because copper is so sensitive when it comes to denting, damaging, making sure it's perfectly round. The HDPE holds trueness in all temperatures and all environments. So any questions from a professional installer standpoint, I'm here for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Dustin Langston.
Hello, my name is Dustin Langston. I'm the Vice President for Engineering and Quality Assurance for WL Plastics. WL Plastics is a high-density polyethylene pipe manufacturer. We actually have 8 plant locations all across North America, one of which is right here in Rapid City, South Dakota. And so I'm just here on representing WL Plastics, and we'll be here as well tomorrow for any questions that you guys might have on high-density polyethylene. You hit a lot of the highlights right on the head. This was the first piping material out there that had a 100-year service life advertised. Before the PVC guys, before the ductile iron guys, before anybody else started advertising their service life, HDPE pipe was the first material out there to advertise a 100-year service life. On top of the sanitation lines that you referenced, I would bet that the majority of your gas pipe in the city is yellow polyethylene pipe. And all of that will be run under all your streets as well, and it is still a polyethylene pipe. So it's a different color, but a lot of those properties are exactly the same, and it's a fusible product, which means that it's a leak-free product from the water main all the way to the house. So didn't have a lot I wanted to share with you today, but I did want to let you guys know that I'm here to support, and again, just having that local manufacturer here right in town is going to be hugely beneficial to the city going forward with polyethylene pipe. So any other questions, let me know, please. Thank you.
David Fink. Is it Fink?
Yep.
Okay.
Amazing how many times I get sink and tank when I go to check into a hotel, but I think it's an easy last name. So Mayor, Council, really appreciate this opportunity. I'm David Fink. I'm president of the Plastics Pipe Institute. So I represent the WL Plastics of the world. We have about 150 member companies throughout North America, including the raw material suppliers like Dow Chemical, Chevron Phillips, in addition to about 120 pipe manufacturers and related fittings and equipment. So we are a multiple billion-dollar industry. Potable water itself for polyethylene, HDPE, makes up $400 to $500 million a year in annual revenue for our members. It has been widely used, starting as late as the 1950s, and becoming more and more popular here over the last few decades, mainly because some of the features and benefits that the colleagues have already touched upon. It is corrosion-free. Plastics do not rust in acidic soils, so that saves you on maintenance costs. You don't need the cathodic protection. It is a fused material, thus why it made its way into natural gas distribution. You can't afford leaks, so it's going to save you on your water. You're not going to have that treated water loss. Again, it's widely used. We've got several communities that we can point to for case studies, and within our association, we're here to collaborate so that we can advance codes, standards, regulations. I'm here to address any questions that we can in regards to third-party certifications that have been out there for the material, any case studies that you would like to see. So it's not a new material. That can be the perception at times from folks. It's been around working successfully for decades. It's tough, it's durable. Some of the recent upgrades to the standards that we've done have provided so that an engineer, for example, on 3-inch and down, providing laterals, it's going to be really tough for them to screw it up. A DR9 is now specified, which means 250 PSI of pressure. You're not going to find too many laterals that need that type of pressure, so you have that safety factor there. And this is a product that can be used from anywhere from the high heats in Las Vegas or Phoenix, Arizona, to up here in the colder temperatures. It's actually a material that gets tougher whenever it's in cold temperature. That's a little bit different than PVC, which gets more brittle when it gets cold. So not all plastics are the same either. So again, if you have information, I can be reached at dfink@plasticpipe.org. Our trade association website is plasticpipe.org. My contact information and those for our engineers are there. And again, this is a material that not only is used in potable water, but natural gas distribution, wastewater, mining, and even nuclear safety lines. So it's very, very widely used. So thank you again for your time.
Thank you. And that'll be the conclusion of the public comment period. And so now we will start under non-consent items with item 36 under ordinances. Item 36, first reading, Ordinance 6464, an ordinance establishing Chapter 8.40 regarding nuisance sidewalks and amending Chapter 12.08 regarding sidewalk construction and repair. Darla Drew.
Thank you. Move to approve, and if I could get a second, I'd like to hold the floor.
Second by Richie Nordstrom. Go ahead.
Dale, I have a couple questions on this one, if I could, please. So I was reading through this, and I wasn't actually understanding what we're going to identify as a nuisance sidewalk. Is that considered a trip hazard or anything that's cracked? I just kind of want more definition of what this really means, because it can be a broad definition.
It can be a broad definition, but I believe, and I'm going to speak for our code enforcement folks, when you see a bad sidewalk, you know it. A crack, as long as the crack isn't displaced, is not a bad sidewalk. But certainly trip hazards, things that are extremely out of compliance are what they're out looking for. If you can't safely traverse that sidewalk, then it's a nuisance.
So if there's a ground shift or something like that, and it brings up the sidewalk, that's considered a trip hazard, and that would...
Yeah, there's a standard, I don't know, I think it's...
There is a standard, okay.
Half-inch or 3/4 inch lip on the sidewalk, that's defined as a nuisance.
So we've had this before?
We've had this for decades.
Okay, Okay, so what made us do this again? Why are we looking at this again?
Well, we're looking at this, and Joel might be a better resource on that, but there was a change in state law in how sidewalk assessments were done, and that's something I'm not an expert in. There used to be quite a cumbersome process for the assessment of sidewalks. Many times when people don't repair their sidewalks and we need to abate and then assess that cost back to them, the rules were very cumbersome, and I think state law change made that better, made that a little easier, a little more user-friendly to accomplish that. That's why this item is in front of you today.
Okay, so this complaint triggers code enforcement, and then we give people a time limit to fix their sidewalk, because this could be a fairly, expensive and timely thing to do. So,
oh, absolutely.
What is, yeah, it possibly.
They give a standard time limit, but we work with. I've been in front of this council many times on larger sidewalk projects where we've given up to a year and a half for them to, to either install the sidewalk or to make some sort of repair. So we understand the contracting ability in this town is,
yes.
Certainly in the summertime, it's going to be very difficult to hire a contractor and get them there in any short amount of time. So we constantly work with the property owners on schedule.
Okay, I yield.
Okay, we have a motion to approve item 36. All in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 37, first reading of ordinance 6483 regarding supplemental appropriation number 2 for 2021. Motion to approve by Solomon. Second by Darla Drew. All in favor of approval say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Under working session items, item 38, appeal by DevCorp LLC of an exception request denial to allow HDPE water service in lieu of copper tubing from the main to the curb stop. Bill Evans.
First of all, I want to make sure when we vote the right way. It's another one of those funny word ones that you can't tell if you're voting. I think we want to, if you want to approve it, make sure you explain that before we do our vote. But anyhow, as I pointed out on Wednesday, there's really only 3 places any pipe is going to fail. At a joint, where you're putting 2 together, along its length where it fractures, or in corrosion, as far as I'm concerned. And in this case, we've eliminated one of those reasons for failure. So to me, this becomes a no-brainer. In fact, maybe this is something we need to do in terms of changing our whole code so that it's allowed in all projects, so we don't have to keep doing these variances. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Okay. There's no motion on the floor. Darla Drew.
Thank you. I guess I don't know. Bill Freitag, I think I'd like to ask you some questions. And then maybe Dale after that. So Bill, I'm likely to vote for this. I've seen you've done a lot of research, those kinds of things. So in your experience with this material, have you ever seen a break, and how is it remedied?
Usually with the copper, you're not going to get a break, you're going to get a leak, and a lot of times the leak is caused by just when the installer is putting in the ditch. If he bends it, if he just gives it a little bit of a bend and he puts the smallest of a kink in it, the water on the inside of the pipe rubs on that kink, and usually within about 6 months, that by itself will create a hole. The other times that I get the leaks with the copper is if it wasn't really round when they put it into the fitting.
Okay, but I'm not worried about the copper. I'm worried about the plastic pipe. I mean, if there's a break or a leak in that, how is it remedied?
With the plastic pipe, you can pull it. You don't have to dig up the street.
Oh.
You can horizontal. Dane probably knows the correct terminology, but you can go under the street, and you can get a hold of the new pipe, and it also has, the thing that gets a hold of it has a cutter on it. And you pull it back through, and as it comes back through, it cuts the old pipe, and the new pipe comes right with it. Now, you can't do that with the copper, but you can do that with the HDPE. I would add one more thing. With the HDPE, and I've spent a lot of time talking to Rapid Valley because they're the most successful user of it in our area. And everything is the same with it as it would be for the mechanics, the copper, except for one thing, and that is a fitter, a stiffener that goes right in the end of it. It's only about so long and only costs $1. What that does, right at the end of that pipe, when you put it together right there with your fittings, it holds its shape. And so you can clamp it down and you have a good seal.
Well, I did some research on this, and I called some people in Minnesota that I knew that were in the construction industry because I was concerned about the freeze-thaw, because every time I heard it referred to as like Austin or something like that, and they assured me that this was very well suited to this type of climate. If this is passed tonight, will you be buying locally?
Yeah, certainly.
Okay. And has there been any toxicity levels detected in this plastic pipe as you have the water go through it?
Not that I'm aware of, but Mr. David Fink from the Plastics Institute could probably give you detail on that I can't give you.
I've got 1 minute, so if Mr. Fink would like to come up and tell me about that, that'd be great.
Yeah, so this product is certified to NSF 61 for potable water service, so there's no concern whatsoever about toxicity. The milk you drink comes in a high-density polyethylene milk carton. The water on the shelf is a high-density polyethylene water jug, just to give you maybe something that you're more familiar with. Also, when it comes to repair, you can do point repairs. You can actually pothole that area. They make electrofusion patches that can be fired on those. They have mechanical joints that can go in there to do repairs. So it's a very easy system to repair. Typically, repairs are because somebody drilled through it or put a backhoe through it. It's not going to corrode. It's not going to come apart with proper installation. So thank you.
I really like that, and I really like the fact that it's manufactured locally. So thank you. I yield.
Ron Weifenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And in words of Mr. Evans, I'll try to get this right. I want to make a motion that overturns the denial and approves and allows DevCore LLC to install the HDPE water service in lieu of the copper tubing from the main to the curb stop. And if I could get a second, I'd like to hold the
Second from Lehman, and you're making a motion to approve the exception request.
Correct.
Yep.
Thank you. And
you still need the floor?
Pardon?
It's already seconded.
Okay, thank you. And I wanted to thank everybody involved because when you have a good, educated conversation, things go real well. And I appreciate WL Plastics. I know back when they were looking at coming to Rapid City, all of the efforts and work that was put into to get them to come here, between the city and between the staff of the city and to build their building and get them on the lot and then just the opportunity to have a fine company like that developing a product that we can use in our city is awesome. I appreciate Mr. Fink flying up from Texas on a short notice. I mean, they brought this all upon themselves. Nobody solicited them to come here. They heard the conversation on the HDPE pipe and they wanted to weigh in on it, and I appreciate that. So thank you.
Okay. One of the council members might be in the queue on the wrong. Okay. All right. Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. If the motion is to overrule the denial, then I'm going to be voting against it. And let me address a couple of things. And Mr. Tech, Director Tech, if you will address a couple of points. But what I'm primarily concerned on is the sample of material that we were given here as a model of the copper tubing that was failing. The little bit of opportunity that I've had to do some research on copper pipe, the reason why it failed in this case here is because of non-cathodic protection. We've got copper pipe throughout the city that is still in usable service. It's been in service since, oh gosh, probably 80 years or better. And I'm not sure what happened to the samples that were given to us, but something happened to that caused that failure. And most areas where it's has that cathodic protection, we don't see that. And I just want to address, Mr. Tech brought up something else too for a second point, is that we'll be talking about this in the excuse me, the Infrastructure Advisory Group probably next Friday. And we would like to get some more information on that. And right now, I just don't have enough information to provide you on the state standard specs. But there is also a third point for Mr. Tech is that I'll try to give you time that's yield on my time for you, is that the third point has to do with the Rapid Valley water system. They've got a little bit different system out there and how they utilize HDPE, and if you get a chance to talk about that, I'd like to hear your comments on that. First of all, let me stop there, Mr. Tech, if you could address those 3 points for us.
I'll do my best to stay on those topics. I was not able to observe that pipe that was passed around. Copper pipe can fail in a number of ways. I wasn't able to observe it. Certainly, I think what Mr. Freitag said is true, that if it's improperly installed, it'll fail prematurely. That's the basis. You know, speaking with Rusty out at Rapid Valley, we speak all the time and talk about products all the time, and you know, they all have their pluses and minuses. Rapid Valley system is fairly young. You pointed out Rapid City system is very old, and we have a myriad of products in the ground that probably went through a very similar thing like we're talking about today, that hey, this is a great product, it's the wave of the future. HDPE pipe is a good product, there's no doubt about it. The comments I made the other day at the working session were in regards to our operations. And if you read that Black and Veatch report, you can cherry pick things out of it saying HDPE is the best thing in the world for certain applications, and that's probably true. But for our operations folks, we need to concentrate on having to minimize the amount of products that we have. This would be no different than the police or the fire having any supplier that wanted to sell their product come in front of you and say, well, I think your fire department or your police department should use these products. No, they're trained to use specific products and to be able to respond 24 hours a day, 7 days a week if there's an emergency to fix that. And if we've got a myriad of projects from the operations side, that makes it very difficult. And there was a third thing you brought up, Mr. Nordstrom?
Yeah, the IAG report. And
absolutely.
Just if I can put a footnote onto this report that we'll be looking at, is that of the municipalities I checked with, is that they don't allow HDPE under right-of-ways. So that's just a footnote. But if you can address some more comments about the IAG.
There's all kinds of communities that do different things, and a lot of it has to do with the ownership of that service line. Rapid Valley, they own the line from the main to the house. City of Rapid City does not do that. I'd say it's over 50% of the communities around. It's the property owner's responsibility. I have to bring up polybutylene pipe or poly-B pipe that the city allowed in the late 70s through the mid 80s that failed miserably, and it cost our ratepayers over $1 million to repair all that. Not to mention the inconvenience and the flooded basements and everything else that went along with that. I'm not saying HDPE pipe's going to do that, but every time you add a new product to your inventory, your likelihood of not being able to respond properly from an operations standpoint is magnified.
My time is expired, but thank you, Mr. Tech. And I think the reason why I'm hesitant also is because of the experience that I went through with Poly B and and my predecessors what they experienced with Poly B. And I don't know, based on the number of years of experience, I'm just concerned about a new product coming online without an actual history of it here in Rapid City. So, thank you.
Mr. Tech, is there other comments you want to make here?
Yeah, there's a
tonight?
couple other comments I'd like to make. The first one is, you know, people want change fast. They want to, hey, let's do this right away. We've got, about a year ago, Ted Johnson, before he retired, put together an infrastructure advisory group, and it's part of this evaluation of our criteria, our standard specifications. He put the group together, obviously during COVID, not a lot was done because people couldn't get together to do that. Richie, I think, is participating in that. And I think that group needs to do the heavy lifting and not the city council as far as determination of what products that we use, what changes we make to our standard specifications and our criteria. So my recommendation would be, let's not rush this tonight. Let's let that group do its work and bring a recommendation forward that wouldn't be just for this development, but citywide. And then if this group is so inclined tonight to approve this, it's not about the pipe, it's about the entire system. So are you also approving tonight that the bedding for this material has to be correct? Because the bedding for this material is different than copper pipe. So we want to make sure that we're installing this product properly. It's not just as easy as jumping out there and throwing it in the ditch. So I just wanted to make those 2 points.
Okay. Thank you. Back to Bill Evans.
I do have one question for Mr. Tech. What are our current new mains made of that we're putting in?
Okay. That question, to me, illustrates the confusion about this whole discussion we're having. It's not about mains, it's about service lines. Our mains
I understand that, but I'm just, because I'm worried about the connections and where they meet.
Correct. Our mains are primarily PVC piping in residential areas. So there is a metallic tapping saddle that gets put around that PVC main. So that is still a metallic fitting that still is susceptible to corrosion.
Okay, well, I haven't taken a strength of materials class in about 47 years, nor a chemistry class, of which I got about 30 hours, in about 45 years. However, I do know products either love each other or hate each other. Salt and water, they love each other. Vinegar and oil, they hate each other. Plastic is not metal. And it's just like the concrete versus asphalt thing we have. They don't like to stay together. And to me, if you're going plastic, metal, plastic, you're creating more problems than if you go plastic, plastic. That just makes common sense to me because it becomes actually a molecular bond when you do that, not a mechanical one like that sleeve. So again, I say, let's move into the future. My phone isn't running on kerosene, and I think it's time to try something new. And I hope we all, in fact, I wish it was unanimous we'd change this. Thank you.
Mr. Tech, I have a question. We've heard the term hot soils here tonight. Could you explain, in case there's anyone watching this meeting, what a hot soil is?
Hot soil is a soil that if you put, well, it's highly reactive to metals. Along Rapid Creek, throughout town, there are, even in the Robbinsdale area with the silts and the clays and the cobble, there's hot soils throughout town. In fact, there's measurements you can make, there's laboratory testing. I believe the information that Mr. Freite gave you on Wednesday shows the numbers for the soil type out there, and it's not any different than the soils that we have in Robbinsdale, where we have copper service lines that have been in the ground for over 60 years there.
Okay. Thank you. Darla Drew.
Thank you. I want to contest the fact that this is an overnight thing. I think I've been here about 7 or 8 years, and we talked about this when I was first on council. So I would put it back in Mr. Tech's department to maybe do the research for us so that this can happen, because it will happen. I think it is where we're moving eventually. And it's been looked at for years. This isn't new. So I would like to just say that I think that, you know, if we say yes to this tonight, then it's on the engineers to figure out how we go forward, because that's your job to do those kinds of things. I hate to say that's your job. Sorry about that. But I think that would be the responsibility of engineers to make this work for us, because we've been talking about it forever. And it's made here. And I really like the fact that it's made here. And I would like to go ahead and support this, because it's supporting local business in a big way. So that's all I need to say, but I just think that this is not overnight.
Dale Tech.
If I may respond to that, it's not an engineering issue. The engineering's done. It's been studied and engineered to death. It's the operations folks. It's our boots on the ground that have to deal with all these different materials is my concern. And I hope I'm being very clear to the City Council about that. That this is just another product then that they have to make sure they have stuff available to respond to any breaks or any issues. They have to carry spare lengths of this material. We want to make sure we don't have 15 different materials that we've got to now stock that is available to our operations folks if they have to respond to an emergency.
Could I ask Dale a question? So is that a possibility right now? Do we have more than 2 that you're taking around?
I believe we've identified 3 or 4 HDPE pipes that are acceptable to use on the private property side.
Okay. I still think it's manageable. So, but like I said, I don't have your job, but I believe that we can figure this out. Thank you.
Okay, the motion on the floor is to approve the exception request. An aye vote approves the exception request. A no vote denies the exception request. Everyone clear? Okay, all in favor of the motion on the floor, which is to approve the exception request, say aye. Opposed? Roll call, please.
Lehman.
Aye.
Solomon. Evans. Drew.
Aye.
Nordstrom.
No.
Weifenbach. Stroman. Armstrong. Motion passes 6 to 2.
Okay, thank you. So the exception is approved for the item 38, and then now staff will go to work to look into the material options moving forward. So item 38 is complete. Item 39, one more thing.
I'm sorry if I may. This request is just for this development. This doesn't
Correct.
change, but certainly we will work towards looking at this and trying to narrow the very broad spectrum of HDPE products and try to do our very best to incorporate those.
Starting with the infrastructure advisory.
Actually, the infrastructure advisory group and a look at our standard specifications.
Great, thank you. Okay, item 39. Authorize Mayor and Finance Director to sign settlement agreement between the City of Rapid City and Dennis Zanstra Real Estate Holdings for TIF 65 Minnesota Street certified costs. Motion approved by Solomon, second by Drew. All in favor of approval say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Under community development items, item 40, a request by Renner Associates LLC for Bobby Sunby for a preliminary subdivision plan for proposed lots 1 and 2 of Garden Lane subdivision, generally described as being located at 2905 Garden Lane, and the recommendation is to approve with stipulations. Solomon makes a motion to approve with stipulations, correct? Second by Greg Stroman. All in favor of that motion say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 41, a request by Renner Associates LLC for Paul H. Reinke Family Trust for a preliminary subdivision plan for proposed Lot 10R of Block 2 and Lot 7R of Block 3 of Copper Oaks Number 3 subdivision, generally described as being located at 23614 and 23620 Wilderness Canyon Road. And again, the recommendation is to approve with stipulations. Lehman makes the motion to approve with stipulations. Second by Greg Stroman. All in favor of that motion say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 42, a request by Renner Associates LLC for Paul H. Reinke Family Trust for preliminary subdivision plan for proposed Tract 1 of Reflection Ridge Subdivision, generally described as being located at 23652 Wilderness Canyon Road. Recommendation is to approve with stipulations. Darla Drew makes the motion. Second by Bill Evans. All in favor of that motion say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 43, request by Carrie Cadermus for determination by the City Council that there's no feasible and prudent alternatives to the demolition of a contributing structure in a historic district located at 817 St. Cloud Street, and that the proposal contains planning to minimize harm to historic property pursuant to SDCL 1-19A-11.1 and Rapid City Municipal Code 17.54.080. Motion to approve by Richie Nordstrom and a second by Jason Solomon. We'll go to Bill Evans.
I do. Is there anybody here that could speak to this that knows? I'm just curious. Is that Sarah?
Sarah Hansel's here.
Yeah, if you could answer a question. You know, I've looked at this and, you know, it's not a structure of great merit. I'm just curious, what is the plan for that site? Is it to replace it with another structure or leave it vacant?
That's correct. They've constructed a new garage, two-stall garage.
Okay, and then that's going to be sympathetic to the adjoining architecture on both sides?
Yep, the proposal was reviewed per our construction in historic district standards.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, motion to approve is on the table. All in favor of that motion say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 44, request by Joanne and Roger Shriver for a determination by the City Council that there are no feasible and prudent alternatives to the proposed demolition of a contributing structure in a historic district located at 915 St. Cloud Street, and that the proposal contains planning to minimize harm to historic property pursuant to South Dakota State law and Rapid City Municipal Codes. Motion to approve by Drew and a second by Nordstrom. All in favor of approval say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 45 is alcoholic beverage license applications. There are 30 in total. If the council wishes, they can vote and approve all of these with one vote. Motion by Lehman to approve all 30. Second by Darla Drew. Ron Weifenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just taking it for granted that the police department or anybody doesn't have any issues with this. They'd bring it up to us if they did.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for approval of item 45. All in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing items 46 through 50. There are no speaker requests on these items, so we won't have a public hearing. Consent public hearing items 46 through 49. The council may approve all of these with one vote or take them individually. Motion by Armstrong to approve the consent public hearing items and a second by Greg Stroman. All in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Non-consent public hearing item 50. Second reading, Ordinance 6481, an ordinance amending Section 17.06 of Chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, a request by Ferber Engineering for Hayland LLC for a rezoning request from Light Industrial District to General Commercial District for property generally described as being located south of Seeger Drive at the end of 143rd Avenue. Motion to approve Lehman. Second by Drew. All in favor of approval say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 51 is the bill list, and for that we'll, oh, sorry, Bill Evans? Okay. We'll go to Finance Director Pauline Sumption for item 51.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are no additions to the bill list, so the total is that which is attached at $7,616,732.97.
Motion to approve, Solomon. Second by Nordstrom. All in favor of approving the bill list, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And I'll go to Bill Evans.
Yeah, before we go, I just want to mention, for my entire existence here, and I've lived in this town now for 62 years, and I've been frustrated, frankly, by sometimes some of the finest structures we have that should be considered great historical structures are ignored, demolished, and little pieces like these little homes and structures that come before the council, and there's all this attention paid to them, and yet buildings that are of great merit, for instance, the old First National Bank was a masterpiece that is torn down on its parking lot. And we have to be more cognizant of the fact that Rapid City was never a very architecturally rich city. We missed the boat because the money was up in Deadwood and Lead. And all you got to do is walk around the streets to see that. So right now, we still have a beautiful structure, historic structure that is not owned by us, but it is owned by the Department of Interior, the Sioux Sanitarium. The building is slated for demolition. I think it would be an enormous loss to this city to lose that structure. I believe we should investigate in every possible way we have to find a repurposing for that and work with the Interior Departments, the connections we have now with locally appointed people that have some ability to influence policy now, and see if we can't save that beautiful building. So I just wanted to make that point. We need to understand what our assets are, and that's a building we could not afford to build now, and it's going to be missed when it's gone. So I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Motion to adjourn, Armstrong. Second by Drew. Everyone say aye. Opposed? We're adjourned, everyone.